Welcome to the Big Block Bob YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. If you're already a subscriber, someone who's commented, someone who's liked any of my previous content before, hell yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for the support. And I'm going to celebrate having 500 subscribers. We crossed that magical 500 number over the winter. This is one of the first full-length videos I've done in 2023. So to celebrate that, I'm going to have a contest to guess the horsepower and torque of the new engine. And I'm going to have a tiebreaker that is the peak RPM, the RPM where peak torque occurs. So guess the horsepower and torque, the peak of both of those numbers, and then tell me what RPM you feel like the peak torque hit. All right, that's your tiebreaker. All right, let's talk about why I would replace one 496 with another 496. A couple things come to mind. I wanted to increase the static compression ratio when running these cylinder heads. I ran it before, but the compression was only 10:3 to 1, and so now I'm well over 12 to 1. And then the other thing is the piston material, the design, the ring pack will take more nitrous. I was only comfortable spraying the existing engine, maybe 200 shot or up to maybe 300, but since the results on the track weren't there at the levels I was already spraying, I figured why hurt it? There's no reason to go crazy with it. Shane at Fessler Racing Engines, he had a customer getting out of the big block game. He's like, hey, Big Block Bob, are you interested in this short block? I said, hell yeah. So here we are. We have an OEM block. It's 60 over, so 43100 bore. We have an Eagle Forge crank, 4250 stroke, Eagle H-beam rods, 63850 length. The pistons are 43cc dome. We have the Straub cam that he did for me, custom hydraulic roller. Nothing crazy on the lift, nothing crazy on the duration. This was designed for drag and drive events. Something that would have just a 1.7 rocker, none of the stud girdles or the shaft mount rockers. I didn't want anything crazy so that if I had a failure on the side of the road that, oh, hey, who's got a spare shaft mount rocker? You know, nobody. So it was designed to be the best for performance, period. It was designed to be reliable and yet give you good performance. So that was the thought with the camshaft. It's 665 lift, 638 on the exhaust. It's 258, 260 at 50. I'm going to run a Melling standard volume high pressure pump. We put a pink spring in it. And then for the oil pan, we're going with the Summit Racing 6-quart. It has windage control, trap door, crank scraper stuff. This is the same pan, but just for a Mark IV block that I had in the other one. The other one, Summit was one of the few places that had a good oil pan for a Gen 5, and that's why I'm like, well, I like that pan for that one. Let's try it here. And then looking at Moroso's prices, we're going through the roof. Their availability was scarce to none at the time that I bought it. So that's kind of what I ended up going with. All right, cylinder heads. I've had a set of AFR 315s for about 5 years now. And the last time I ran them, the short block only had 10:3 to 1 compression with them because they have a bigger combustion chamber than the AFR 265s that I ran these last couple of years. And so I wanted to get an engine that has the ability to have some compression with them because they have that bigger combustion chamber. And this is my perfect opportunity to use them. They were just sitting on my workbench on the bottom shelf doing nothing. And now we have an opportunity to do something with them. So we're going to go ahead and freshen them up. We're going to have them cut for a 2-300 valve. And by doing that, though, we're going to increase the weight of the valve. So we're thinking about, okay, we want this thing to rev higher than it did before. So we're going to need to reduce some weight. A couple ways to do that would be like a hollow stem valve or a titanium valve. Titanium valves are very costly and they just weren't in stock. And it would take a while. So Ferrea had some hollow stems on the shelf. And as luck would have it, they fit our application. And we ordered them up, and then we got some stainless exhaust valves. So all new valves there. Went with a packed beehive spring, and one of the reasons, as you can see here, the retainer weight. So the retainers on the beehive, this is probably, I'll double check, a titanium retainer, but the weight savings there is considerable. Again, we wanted to reduce some weight. We're having the bigger valve, looking for more RPM and more power. So that was just one of the things that Shane and I had talked about, and something we had to compromise on because he really wanted the titanium. He was pushing for that hard, but there's just no time to wait for that. So here we are, got that. The engine that he picked up for me came with a set of stud girdles. So now we'll be running a Jomar stud girdle. Not that the cam needs it, but now that I have it, it's there. And then if I go with a cam that's maybe more on the race side than drivability side and puts a little more pressure on springs and other things, then having that stud girdle is probably a benefit now. Wasn't a consideration before because I didn't have one, but now that I have it, something we'll take advantage of. All right, last but not least will be the Induction. So I ran the 315 heads before with a Vic Junior intake, but that Vic Junior intake was completely stock ass cast and just how you would buy it straight out of the catalog. This intake, however, was ported by Stegermeyer Porting here locally in St. Charles, Missouri, and it was on a car that went high fives in the 8th mile, a heavy car, so I know it's capable of supporting high horsepower level, and for a 4150 that seemed to make sense for me. The goal was with the parts I had to make a certain number of horsepower, but I won't get into that too much yet because we have a contest open, so I won't elaborate too much. The carburetor is the same quick fuel 1050 main body. It has Demon metering blocks and bowls, and this thing got the Fessler Royal treatment. So he went through and kind of blueprinted everything and went through everything, looked at the metering blocks, he looked at anything he could do in the Venturis, the boosters, to try to make this a better running carburetor that's going to produce better power. So it had the royal treatment. He painted it and polished and made it look pretty and everything. So if you've seen those videos, I think it looks amazing. It looks better in person certainly than it does on video. That's the Induction side. So yeah, tell me what you think. What kind of power is this engine going to make? All right, if you stuck around that long, thank you very much. So here are the details on the contest. I want to know how much horsepower it made and how much torque. So whatever that maximum number is, I need you to guess that number. Then the tiebreaker is the RPM where peak torque was achieved. So if for some reason, magically, two people guess the same amount, and if I get 10 people to try, I'll be impressed. But anyway, that's the idea. Horsepower, torque, what is the highest number recorded, and then for tiebreaker, what is the RPM for peak torque? Get those things in the comments. You've got about a week. Good luck. Winner gets a Big Block Bob t-shirt. I'll find out what size you need. I'll get it mailed to you. So good luck. Thanks again.